program. Our mothers were dying at delivery, and so it was part of our statistics. We used to count maternal mortality rates in our budget. President Kufuor brought free maternal health care to remove this canker from our society. President Kufuor brought national health insurance and made health insurance or health universal access to the people. That notwithstanding, in the year 2008, what we needed to do as a country was to simply say, listen, where we are now, with the foundation that this MPP government has built, it's time for us to allow them to continue to leapfrog media. We're on the community information centers. We need to get the people to hear us and understand us. We are poised towards breaking down the issues. We believe that manifestos are simply to solve problems, and at every point in time, countries have unique challenges, and those unique challenges must be confronted. We have proposed what our solutions are. We need to break these solutions down for the people to digest and see whether our solutions make sense and would fix their problems or not.
Okay. I mean, speaking of making proposals, the Vice President, when he was speaking on Sunday, said that he had interacted with the Ghanaian people and he had identified the three main problems that is on the mind of the ordinary Ghanaian, from jobs to cost of living and then roads. Would
RAZ Media GH. So, Abusianfo, Miracles, aboagye, and serwa, I'm here. Eko share mu se omu kudi nkomo kakra. Na we mu na serwa, I'm here. Ayana adwene say obetete Miracles with some questions. Na ye petty penny questions. Na ento ashwo mu ye na ayete say the propaganda journalism say asuma say could to somebody in difficulties. Now, kwaya Miracles aboagye ede maami we fast no. I think I say na yebeko akoti. Kwaya Miracles e fast so e manage maami no. Ye say me no yin konkoti. Na yen so to make say dey hope. Say what I'm here. Miracles say journalism is not about ashwo. Journalism is about revealing, searching, doing research to find out the truth of the matter, not just about hear them say. In terms of Miracles, Chema Amena Obubu Biman or can be chain a year pa and myself. Say I'm calling Concoti and some IP Mwabra. Say why I'm here. Mamena and ask them this and then say or Jibrin $1 million no more than I don't know so Miracles journal or any interview. Yan couldn't concoti about the Santo so much higher RAZ Media GH, but Madrana subscribe like a video no, na share Sedebea, Unia, Unafu almost so many be I know when you be so at here. Yan couldn't concoti like by the Santo so.
Do you say that this document, this manifesto of yours, prefers solutions to all of these?
Actually, yes. I mean, so you know that the Vice President, amongst all the candidates, is the one that has traversed this country the most. He's been all over the place in barely 7 months since his election at the primaries, and he's listened to the people. He's met traditional authorities, he's met religious bodies, leaders, he's met business groups, labor unions, he's engaged several of them, youth groups. A key feature in his campaign across the country is the Youth Connect platform, where he brings youth from various backgrounds to really tell him what the issues are and what it is that is dear to their heart. So he understands clearly that these are the key things. And if you look at the manifesto, it's 90% heavy on jobs and businesses. The two are moving together. His idea is let's stimulate demand, let's support businesses to expand. By so doing, they would have to employ more, and then we can push our team in ready to work citizens to get into these spaces. And then the biggest bit of it, which is the infrastructure, the roads. It's critical. Today in Ghana, you agree that the pace at which we're expanding our road network is astronomical. We had barely 70,000 kilometers of road as of 2016 networks. And today we have close to 100,000. In 8 years of the previous government, the NDC government, they were able to do 4,640 kilometers of road. In 8 years of MPP, we've been able to do just about 12,000 kilometers. And yet, within the 8-year period, the network has grown about 30,000 kilometers. So we need to find a fast fix for the road network situation. And so he proposes bringing on board strongly private sector to help build this road infrastructure so that it speeds up the process, frees government some fiscal space, and the government can push that towards expanding private businesses, and then would stimulate these businesses to grow for them to employ the young person. So yes, he's proposed several solutions to these critical sectors and these critical things that are dear to the heart of the Ghanaian.
Okay, let's take all of these promises. I mean, I will try and get into as many as we can because of time, because we are very limited.
It takes 3 hours to discuss all of it.
You have done your calculation.
Yeah.
But let's first talk about some of your promises from 2020, Dennis. There are many who know that indeed some of your promises have not been fulfilled. In fact, a lot of them have not been fulfilled. And I can go on and on from infrastructure development initiatives, sports, industry, governance, housing, health, and whatnot, transport, the creative arts, and all. What makes this one different, and why should we trust Dr. Bawumia?
So actually, our manifestos for 2016 and 2020 has been implemented at about 80%. We've run it, we've done the numbers. We admit that indeed. We have some 20% of the manifesto that is still outstanding. There's no doubt about that. But 80% of the promises and the propositions we have in the manifesto have actually been implemented. And I can share the data with you. You can run your analysis and look at it. So that's a fact. The distinct feature of this manifesto is that it is a manifesto that is building on a foundation that has been laid by a government that has had 2 terms. And that's something that this country has been missing for a very long time. What happens usually is that when we have a government in place, like we had under President Kufuor inherited a country that was wobbling on its feet, a country that was on its knees, at a time when we had to declare ourselves highly indebted poor country to be able to have some fiscal breather and develop this country. By the time President Kufuor was getting to the end of his tenure in 2008, Ghana was called the gateway to Africa. We're the golden age of business. Banks were chasing Ghanaians to come for loans to do businesses. President Kufuor made basic education free by introducing capitation. He went on to ensure that the poor child who for poverty, even though you've paid his fees for, is unable to go to school, get food in school by introducing the school feeding program. Our mothers were dying at delivery, and so it was part of our statistics. We used to count maternal mortality rates in our budget. President Kufuor brought free maternal health care to remove this canker from our society. President Kufuor brought national health insurance and made health insurance or health universal access to the people. That notwithstanding, in the year 2008, what we needed to do as a country was to simply say, listen, where we are now, with the foundation that this MPP government has built, it's time for us to allow them to continue to leapfrog into the future we want to see for Ghana. Unfortunately, President Kufuor encountered challenges in 2008. The global economic crunch. There was fuel shortages, actually. There was water shortages in the inner cities. Cantonment, Laboni, people were carrying yellow gallons and fetching water from the gutters. And so what happened is that we truncated our development trajectory at that time, and introduced a new government. The government then, the NDC government, reversed almost everything President Kufuor achieved in terms of progress. And so by the time we got to 2016, we were in an energy crisis. Our lights were off 3 years out of 4 years of their tenure. Our health insurance had lost 1.5 million subscribers because they no longer trusted and believed in it. Every year, 100,000 of our young people were being left on the street and not able to access senior high school education because their parents were poor. So there were so many things that were going wrong with our country. This same government sold 300 of state-owned factories, which was going to be the foundation of our industrial base as a country. So we had to go back and start when we came to office in 2017. Basically in 2017, the foundation that Kufuor built, which we had to build on, had been deteriorated and eroded, and we had to rebuild from scratch. So you recall that 2019 in this country is undoubtedly touted as one of the happiest Decembers in this country. Nobody disputes that, because at the time we had made so much progress in several sectors of our society and the economy. That was a time where we had moved inflation, which former President Mahama moved from 8% to 15%. We have brought it down to 8%. In fact, we had actually made progress in every facet of our economy, and then COVID struck. Something that nobody can run away from. Which country isn't going through it? The US, the UK, Scandinavian countries, Asian countries, everybody is going through it. Every country since then has been working to recover and get out of it. Till date, there is not a single country that will say we are completely free from the COVID effect. The UK, in the year 2022, within 6 months, had to change prime ministers about 3 times because of economic crisis. Germany was struggling for basic goods, oil, flour, and all of that. The United States, in their elections, you watch their debates, and it's purely based on economy, unemployment, and inflation and all of that. So every country is trying to get out of it. And that is why we continuously say that this manifesto is simply saying, let's protect the gains, serwa. Let's consolidate the positives and the successes we've made. We understand that we have to go into an election, but we don't necessarily have to go into an election and bring a leader that we've tested before. And so our manifesto is basically looking at each and every foundation we have built and bringing a top up, call it a plus. So you look at free SHS, and the proposition in this manifesto is saying that let's protect and enhance it. Enhancing it is simple. Let's fix the challenges when it comes to their feeding. Let's complete the infrastructural progress we've made in that space. You look at this manifesto, serwa, and we've actually created over 2.3 million jobs in the last 8 years. But think about it.
Okay.
2.3 million jobs created, and yet we have millions of people who still require jobs to do.
That's what I was going to ask you, because if you say that you have created all of these jobs, why do we still have unemployment rate?
Because we have
no, I'm not asking why we have it at all.
Okay.
Why have we seen it move from the percentage that it was to about 14.7% now?
That even tells you why you need this government even more. Because it tells you that, but for this government, we will even have a larger unemployment population. Because here you are, a government that has created 2.3 million jobs. And yet we still have a lot more. Why? Those people, they are citizens who need jobs.
Let me ask you, how many jobs have you created?
2.3 million.
I hear 2.1, I hear 2.3, I hear 21 million on your platform.
It was 2.1 million in 2022. We share the data. And that's the good thing about the MPP. The data is there. We'll give it to you. You can interrogate it. It was 2.1 million in 2022. We are in 2024. It is now 2.3 million. The data is there. It's an Excel sheet that gives you line by line sectors where the jobs have been created and how many jobs have been created. So think about it. Our previous government, our competitor in 8 years, is on record to have indicated that he created 600,000 jobs. He said it in Parliament. 600,000 jobs. We are on record to have said in Parliament that we've created 2.3 million jobs. We've all showed our scorecard. Would you want a government that created 600,000 jobs to come and fix your unemployment situation? Or you would want a government that has created 2.3 million jobs to come and fix your unemployment situation?
Give me a breakdown of these jobs.
Oh, I have the Excel. It's quite complex. It's a lot of sectors.
But the sectors?
Oh, the public sector. So talk about the security services. Talk about the health sector. Talk about the civil service. Talk about the local government service. Talk about aviation, civil aviation, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, private sector. 1D1F alone, which is a deliberate government policy industrialization. That one alone has created about 160,000 jobs. So we have a tall list.
Let me read this to you in your 2020 manifesto. On page 2, you said that, in 3.5 years that you have been in office, you have stabilized the economy, you have eliminated and reduced the number of taxes, you have reduced the overall tax burden, you have doubled growth, and you have created over 2 million jobs in the public and formal sectors, public and private sectors.
Yes.
So in your 2020 manifesto, you had created over 2 million jobs.
Yes.
And 4 years later, we still have 2.1 or you say 2.3 million jobs.
Yes.
So between 2020, where you had created over 2 million jobs, and we're in 2024, it means you haven't created that much jobs.
Because between 2020 and 2024, admittedly, that is when we've had the most difficult economic crisis ever. So you should understand, there's been an economic slowdown. Businesses have struggled for 2 years.
So between 2020 and 2024, how many jobs have you been
over 300,000. Rightly so, because isn't that
in
the period?
what sectors?
Isn't both public and private sector? Both public and private sector. Isn't that the period where we've had the
Where
most?
specifically?
Oh, I can always give you the Excel sheet. It's there. We have it.
But jobs is something that is very dear to you, Dennis. I expect that.
Do I have it on top of my head?
The sectors,
amazing.
at least.
But I've told you, I said public sector and private sector, security services, health sector, education sector, private sector, industries, services. And the data is there. I mean, if you can, I can give it to you to chew it and tell me next week. But I am unable to chew.
Don't worry,
I'm unable to chew.
I have that data as well.
I'm glad you have it. So you can share that with us, and then you read through that. So really, that is the period where we've had the most economic difficulties and challenges. That's where we had the slowest of time when it comes to economic growth. And so you should expect that what we achieved rapidly in the first 4 years, really, there's been a slowdown. And we are not running away from that. If there has ever been a government that has admitted and been sincere with the people when it comes to difficulties and challenges, it's this government. I mean, in the past, our competitor, who is seeking to be president again when he was president, when we were complaining about some of these things, what did he tell us? His ministers told us that they have nothing for us and that we should go to the bush and go and cut grass and come and put by the roadside. His ministers actually told the young people to go into the forest and gather rocks and stones and sell by the roadside. That's what we were told. And so really, it is about sincerity. Okay. It is about honesty. It is about a government that is able to say that this is who we are. Okay. This is what we've been able to achieve. This is what we haven't been able to achieve. And this is our proposition in dealing with what is outstanding for us to do. And that is what this manifesto is talking about. You realize that this 2024 manifesto is not so much heavy on social interventions as our previous manifestos have been. In the past, you see all our manifestos proposing a lot of social safety nets. What Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is saying is this: it is time for us to consolidate and strengthen the existing social safety net. Let's improve the National Health Insurance Scheme. Let's improve the school feeding program. Let's improve the basic schools. Let's improve the free senior high school. Let's improve all the social safety, the LEAP, all the social safety nets we have in place. Protect them and make sure that they are standing. Because you know what? Those are the things that are providing the enabling platform, creating equity for the Ghanaian people to thrive and to dream and to aspire. If I wake up and I live in Kukua, you know Kukua, it's in a Yeswano constituency, far away. If I live there and I have access to quality education and I have access to quality healthcare, it gives me the opportunity to compete with you, Serwa, who lives in Labodi or Cantonment. I'm just saying.
I don't listen.
And so I'm just saying. So it creates that enabling environment for the rich and the poor to both dream and aspire. And those things need to be protected.
I want us to still stay on the jobs. I have the breakdown. It wasn't clear. That is why I kept asking and pushing for it.
Let me also open it once you open it.
No problem at all. But yesterday, the Controller and Accountant General was at the Public Accounts Committee, and he said that those on his payroll about some 760,000 people. I'm sure that you say that not everyone is on the
it's not what I would say, that's the fact.
Of course. And so I know that is going to be the defense.
No, it's not a defense, that's a fact.
Okay,
don't
that
do
is
that.
a fact.
Yes, be nice.
No problem.
That is a fact.
No problem at all. But we also know, Dennis, that the Statistical Service last year said that it released the Ghana Earnings Report. Okay. It said that just about 10% of public sector workers are not on the controller's payroll. So if, we add, say, 100,000 people to 760,000 who are on the controller's payroll, that is not 1.4 million jobs.
That's not 2.3 million jobs.
Well, as at the time. So that is still not even 2.1 or 2.3 million jobs.
Let me tell you what.
Tell me.
When it comes to public sector employment, there are those who are directly on the consolidated fund and paid through controller. There are some that are on government subventions, and there are some that are completely on their own. If you put all of those institutions together and their employment together within the 8 years, it gives you the 1.4 million people.
That's for the public sector.
Relax. You know Ghana Airports Company?
Yes.
Do you know the staff strength of Ghana Airports Company?
Tell me.
It runs into thousands.
Okay.
You know Ghana Port and Harbours Authority? It runs into thousands. The GMPC, the MPA, the BOST, the civil aviation, Those are all public institutions.
And I've added, I gave
No,
you
you
a
haven't.
figure
You have
about
not.
100,000.
You know how? How can you put that at 100,000? Do you know
Say,
that? Do you know
give or
the staff
take.
strength of Cocoa Board alone?
How many?
So I'm just saying that you cannot just say and sit down and say I put them into 100,000.
Okay.
YEA is employing, NYA is employing. There are several of. I run a government, a public institution. I have staff who are not on
Okay.
government payroll. So pick the data. I thought you were going to pick the data that we shared, and then you would interrogate that data and tell me that, oh no, this line, I don't think it is like that. The police, the number of health professionals we have recruited in the past 8 years, the number of teachers we have recruited in the past 8 years, put those together, then you can interrogate the data properly. The good news here is this, Serwa. We have put out our data line by line. The time the NDC said they created 600,000 jobs. 600,000 jobs. Did you know the number of public sector employees on controller? Barely 350,000. Does it mean that the 250,000 didn't exist? That is not the case. That is not the case. And again, there is an erroneous thinking when it comes to the analysis of the jobs when you say that because a government has created 2.4 million jobs, unemployment should be non-existent. What is our population? Go and check the same statistics report and go and check the same population census and check the number of people who are ready to work and compare to the number of people who we claim are working. It tells you that the gap is huge. And so today, even if you have a government creating 3 million jobs, you will still have over 4 million people who still require jobs to do.
Are these jobs that you have created sustainable?
Of course. We separate the unsustainable jobs from the sustainable jobs.
And you still get the 2.3
Absolutely.
million. Because in 2023, Dennis, SNIT released a report which says that active pension contributors stood at 1.9 million people. And you say that you have created 3 million jobs.
So your understanding of unemployed people are new people who have never worked.
I'm asking you.
No, so I'm also trying to help in the interrogation. So let me also help. Let me not ask you. When we say there are unemployed persons, it doesn't mean that these are people who have never worked. I got my SNIT number when I was in the University of Ghana because I went to school with a student loan. So my SNIT number, the one they gave me for the student loan, B something, is the same number that I'm using. So I've been part of the SNIT number statistics since 2003. Since 2003.
Your point is?
Now the point is that I got fired as MC in 2020. So I became unemployed. So I was part of the unemployed statistics. I got re-employed in 2022, February. So I became part of the employed. So you are telling me that Senate is going to re-register me and give me another number? Are you understanding? So I had the same number, became unemployed, became employed. Senate's data doesn't change. It doesn't reflect it.
I see.
So
isn't it calculated by the payments that are made into?
No, you're talking about beneficiaries. That's what you are using.
I'm
not payment. You cannot use payment. You cannot use payments to calculate unemployment. It will be beneficiaries. Even the point you are making, you cannot. I have worked in pensions. I understand it very well. You can't use that. It will be the beneficiaries. That's the argument you want to make. And the point I'm making to you is that people who are on Senate roll or the Senate database can become unemployed and become employed again. It doesn't mean that as you bring 2.4 million people onto the working group, you must Senate data will increase to 2.something million. It doesn't work that way. So today, the Ghana statistics report that says that maybe there are 1 million unemployed people. It doesn't mean that all these 1 million unemployed people have never worked before, for which reason they don't have Senate numbers. They would have Senate numbers. There could be some 600,000 of that who actually have Senate numbers, but have lost their jobs, for which reason they are waiting or looking for other jobs. When eventually they are employed, they are not necessarily going to be adding on to the Senate database.
Okay. Let's talk about the tax cuts also that the Vice President has proposed. I'm sure that you have heard this question many times about, if the Vice President says if he becomes president, betting tax will be abolished, e-levy will be abolished, and the question on the minds of many Ghanaians is, why can't he propose it to the President to abolish them now? Okay,
so first of all, he has proposed it to Cabinet. Cabinet disagreed with him. He's not the only person in government.
He has?
Yes. He is not the President. He doesn't take ultimate decision.
When was this proposal made?
Why? He's made his point about betting tax and e-levy several months ago, almost running into a year. But he's not president. We run an executive presidency. You see, you can do politics and be sentimental, but the facts are the facts. You are vice president, you are a minister, a cabinet minister. When you go to cabinet, there's something called collective responsibility. But the ultimate responsibility is with the president. So ultimately, when cabinet takes a decision, we are all collectively part of it. But why? You think there's everything in this government that I agree with, even though I speak for government a lot of times. I disagree with a lot. With a lot. But I take collective responsibility of decisions of government. That is how sane societies operate. That is the essence of democracy. Otherwise, there will be chaos. GH1, Sewa, over here, are you telling me that it is every decision that is taken by Nanaba and Bola that you agree with? But you go for management meetings, right? You go for staff meetings. You make proposals. Bola will agree with some. They will disagree with some. It will be implemented. You come and sit here. You will interview me. Even though you may not want to interview me, it is a production decision for you to interview me. It doesn't mean that you necessarily agree. If you had the chance to be the head of production, maybe you will not interview Miracles. So it is okay for you to go and tell your team that, you know what, I want to be head of production. When I become head of production, I would not interview Miracles. Then your staff will say, then stop interviewing Miracles now. You're not the one that takes the decision when it comes to who you interview on your show. It is your production team. That is how sane societies operate. When he becomes president, he believes that some enabling environment has been created in the past 1 or 2 years that does not require for e-levy to still be in existence. I'll give you a quick example. He's proposing that he cut 3% of GDP, which is about 30 billion, to private sector. So that is money that government will not need immediately, for which reason government has no reason to go and look for. So are you following? What it means is that he can easily cut out e-levy and still be able to mobilize what government requires to be able to run government business within a fiscal year. But that is a decision that he would make when he's president. He is not president at the moment. And he doesn't take the decisions that government has to take. Cabinet decisions are decisions that he will follow through and implement. But he doesn't take decision as the president of the Republic of Ghana. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has taken a budget to create a fiscal framework in Parliament in 2023 November. In that budget, he said that we are going to mobilize revenues through a levy. That fiscal framework is what we are working with right now, Sewa. It is not up to the vice president to get up one day and call it, wish it away, and say that I'm vice president. I don't think we need a levy, so get out. He doesn't have that power. He doesn't take that decision. You may skew it. You may do politics with it. That is your business.
Have you heard members of the NDC say that if the president is unwilling to abolish these taxes, even when the vice president is against them, it means he himself does not even believe in the vice president?
This morning, I just shared a video of John Jidapo, Honorable, on my Facebook wall. He was asked a specific question. What is the role of the vice president? This was when he was spokesperson to the vice president, Mahama. He asked, what is the role of the vice president? I'll try to paraphrase him. He said the president has asked him to take care of social events, our day, Thanksgiving programs, speech and prize giving days. He attends, he does the media relations. And this is John Jidapo. And that the president has said that he will concentrate on the core government business, the economy, and the serious government business. These are his words. There is law. There is regulation. There are rules. You can't wish them away. You are a host. You are not in charge of production. The fact that your production team says today interview Miracles and you disagree doesn't mean that they don't believe in you. It is not your decision. It is not your choice. You don't have the responsibility. We did not vote for you as president. We voted for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as president. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has his own vision, has his plan, and has a trajectory on which he wants to take the government. All of us, including the vice president, will work towards him and work for him. Otherwise, why don't you turn the same question to John Mahama, His Excellency, the former president? Why does he want to be president again? All the things he say he will come and do. Didn't we give him an opportunity in 2012? At the 2012 IEA debate, he looked us in the eyes and told us, and I quote him, I am only a spare driver. Make me the main driver and let me continue to do the good work that we've started as a government. When I come, I'm going to create jobs. I'm going to help businesses to expand. I'm going to stabilize our power situation. For 8 years, he created 600,000 jobs. He moved our inflation from 8% to 15% as president. Today, he is back. promising us all the things he promised us again in 2012 before we gave him power? Why are we not saying that all the things you said you will do today, you should have done them as president, so get out? In fact, if there is anybody we are going to hold accountable to this scenario, it is a former president, because he has been president before. He has been given that responsibility to fix all the things he's saying he will fix today, which he failed to do. Why would you let the former president, the man that has been president before, go scot-free on things that he's saying he will do today? Why are you not asking him all these things you are saying? Why didn't you do them when you were president? And you're asking the vice president. What kind of unfairness is that?
Okay. I'm wondering, and I'm sure that many people have been wondering, how the NPP intends to fund this manifesto if you're elected into power.
It's easy. True that, you see, the nicest thing about manifesto is that we didn't only look at the expenditure and the implementation, what we will do. We looked at how we are going to raise it as well. And Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been clear. In fact, this is the first time you are seeing a manifesto that is so heavy on tax reforms. He believes that this country has the capability to raise so much without burdening the citizens. But we have lacked certain fundamentals in the past, for which reason we are unable to do that. Let me give you a quick scenario.
Okay.
So, though we are barely 20 to 25% of the entire population contributing to feed us, the entire population, the plenty people, barely 20 to 25%. You and I, who are in the formal sector, we are deducted through our payee. The businesses are paying their VAT and their corporate taxes. Then you have all these other duties and taxes that you have in the formal sector. Now the question is this: why do we have so many people who could also contribute that are not contributing? It's because we've never been able to put in place the needed infrastructure and systems to bring in a lot more people so that we reduce the burden. So because we need 30 billion to be able to run the country in a year, I'm giving you an example, just an example. Because you need 30 billion to be able to run the country in a year, and you have only few people who are going to pay, what you do is that you have to spread that 30 billion for all of them. So if you need 5,000 cedis and you have 5 people you need to raise the 5,000 cedis from, what would you do? Everybody will pay 1,000 cedis. Is that the case? Then you get 5,000. But if you manage to increase the number of people from 5 to 10, you can still raise the same 5,000 by reducing the 1,000 burden and getting everybody to pay 500 Ghana cedis. That's what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is proposing. He's saying that let's review our assessment, collection of taxes, and also review the payment of taxes and make it a bit more convenient. So he traveled to Estonia with a GRA. Estonia has one of the best tax regimes in Ghana. In fact, they all have almost 99% compliance in Estonia. Why? Because of the digital and convenient way with which they collect and pay taxes. If you want to import these flowers from Turkey today, you have no idea how much you pay, serwa. It has to get to the port. When it gets to the port, it's at the discretion of a GRA officer. Depends on how he likes you or otherwise. Sometimes you clear your car, you are exiting the port, they will call you to come back and say, we need to reassess it. Go to Abosio Kai. We met them. Go to Edum. We met them. Go to Tudu. We met them. They tell you, you clear your goods, you bring it to your shop. Then a week later, you have a GRA officer walk to your shop and say, I am seated by you. I want to check again. Why? You stifle businesses when you do that. And it is simply because we need to raise the money from these same people. And so the GRA has no choice than to continuously find ways to be able to collect these monies. What Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is saying, let's review it. Let's reform it. Let's introduce better ways of doing this. First of all, he's introducing a flat rate tax regime for everybody, individuals and corporate institutions. So if Serwa and I are the same complexion, the same height, whatever, and we are supposed to pay taxes based on those things, we pay the same taxes. If you import a 20-footer container of tiles, porcelain tiles, and I also import a 20-footer container of porcelain tiles, Serwa, you won't pay 5,000 for me to pay 10,000. If it is 5,000, we are all going to pay 5,000. It enables businesses to plan. It enables them to strategize so that before your goods even sails on the sea, you know how much you're supposed to mobilize to be able to pay your taxes without having to wait for the discretion of somebody. He's also made a very important point that we need to re-look at our duties and our port charges because we have competition in the sub-region. Today, Togo has a lower top port charges than us. What it means is that businesses that should have come to our port, you know, a lot of our landlocked neighbors import through our port. But because our port charges are higher, they now would prefer to go through Togo. And even our own businessmen would now prefer to go through Togo to be able to bring their goods into the country. And then what happens is that our traffic at the port will go down. And even the revenue that you're expecting, for which reason you increase your taxes, you won't get it. Okay. So he's saying, let's bring our port duties and charges to the level of Togo if we cannot go lower, so that our port will become a bit more attractive. What it means is that if you have 10 people who have moved from your port to Togo, because you've brought your charges down, and he knows that it is almost the same as Togo, he is now encouraged to bring it to your port and to be able to clear their goods. This is going to free businesses. It's going to reduce the fiscal burden on their necks, because they are going to pay lesser charges and taxes that they are paying now, and it ultimately will pass on to consumers. And then he said that because he's bringing all these reforms, he believes that it's going to encourage a lot of individuals and businesses to be part of these reforms. But okay. You owe a lot of taxes from the past. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you haven't paid. So even though you like this new regime and you want to be compliant so that your books will look good as a businessman, you are afraid that when you show up at GRA, they will slap you with the arrears.
Okay.
And so,
complete that quickly, because
what he wants you to do now is that let's forgive them their taxes from the previous years.
The tax amnesty.
Yes.
How will it work like? What is it going to be? Because we've tried it before. In 2013, 2017, it didn't get people to be compliant. How different will this be?
You know, in 2013, 2014, tax amnesties come in different forms. For some, and if you look at 2014, they will tell you that, we are forgiving your penalties and your interest. In some amnesties, they will tell you that we are forgiving your principal, that you pay the penalties and interest. The unique one around this is that, one, the person is coming on board not just because he wants to pay his arrears. He's coming on board because now he finds the tax environment very convenient. He wants to attract investors. Investors are asking him to show them his tax compliance level. He doesn't have it. So now he wants to come. He's coming specifically for that. So that moving forward, he will now be able to pay his tax on time because it is convenient, it is lesser, it's giving him fiscal space. That is the first motivation, and that's what will be a difference between what happened in the past. And secondly, this is a complete tax amnesty. Principal, interest, penalties, all forgiven. Clean slate. Big difference.
I see. Now, this flat rate that you talk about, we had it in 2015. You came in and you moved it in 2017.
Which flat rate?
And now you want to bring it back.
Which flat rate do we have in
2025?
Which flat rate?
If Dr. Bawumia becomes president.
Which flat rate?
Should you not be, let me land on my
because
question. Should you not be apologizing, first of all, for saying that something was not as good enough when you
understand which flat rate you are talking
and then
about.
You're bringing it back.
Tell me which flat rate.
The VAT flat rate, of course.
We are talking about the all the taxes. So which flat rate are you talking about?
I just mentioned VAT.
Which flat rate? But which flat rate? Which flat rate are you saying that we remove them? We should apologize for. And we should apologize for what?
You're not bringing back the VAT flat rate.
We are consolidating the taxes. What's the flat rate about it? We are only putting them together. They are in different bits, and we are putting it together. That's what we are putting it together. So that's what we are saying. So we are consolidating them so that they are not fragmented like we have at the moment. So what are we apologizing for? So let's talk about the substance. What are we apologizing for? What do you want us to apologize for? Whatever it is that you said was there in 2016, how was it impacting the lives of the people? Okay. Businesses were lost in 2016. Companies shut down. Jobs were lost. A lot of the unemployed that you are talking about, they lost their jobs during the NDC era. That is what we should be talking about. They collapsed 300 of state-owned factories. They went to parliament to pass a law. Maybe the Gen Zs don't know, let me remind them. The NDC government went to parliament, asked parliament to pass a law called Divestiture Implementation Act. And then that Divestiture Implementation Act enabled the NDC government to set up a committee called Divestiture Implementation Committee. Now that's what they did. They sold 300 state-owned factories. Factories that were assembling cars, factories that were producing glass, factories that were producing matches, factories that were producing car tires. Think of all the things you can imagine were being produced in this country. 300 of them. They sold them like chupa chops. They sold them like tomatoes. They sold them like the way you buy onions in the market to themselves. A lot of them have been converted into churches around Jolu, given to their cronies to set up churches. That is how bad it was under their era. So what are we apologizing for? Okay. If anybody should apologize, it should be that government that destroyed our industrial base. If that industrial base was there, we would not be struggling with 321 factories that the NPP government has done. If the MPP government was in office in 1988, all the way to 2000 when the NDC left office, we would not have sold those factories. What we would have done is to do what we are doing today, form partnership with private sector to revive these factories and make sure that we build our industrial base. Now today, they've dug the big hole for us. We come to start filling in the hole, and they're asking us for apologies.
Dennis, I'm sure that, on your agenda for women, yesterday I had a conversation with a gender activist, and I asked her if she had seen the proposal for the setup of the Women's Empowerment Fund, which Nana Opoku-Agyeman says you stole, by the way, you stole their idea. And I want you to respond to that, because they have said they are setting up a women's bank. You all of a sudden come and say that you're setting up, or you're going to start a Women's Empowerment Fund. But this gender activist that I spoke with yesterday said she doesn't have so much hope in this manifesto when it comes to women, because even the affirmative action bill has still not been assented to by the president. At least let's see that happen before all of these other things that you're talking about.
Sometimes this country, we have a lot of impossibility mindset, and it's fine. That's one of the things that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is working on. He is a man of possibilities. He's a man that believes that we need a complete mindset, and it works. It starts from everybody. So I do not blame the gender activist. I don't know her. But I do not blame her if she doesn't believe in these things, because, of course, in the past, we've had very few governments focus so much on women. And so it's not a big deal if she doesn't believe. But Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has shown that we are committed to it. In fact, if you pick our manifesto, the 14 key thematic areas that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia spoke about, 2 of them are dedicated to women and the vulnerable and the aged. It's never happened before. We have about 8 or 9 specific interventions for women. And that's something that needs to be applauded. But if you have a gender activist that said, I don't believe in it, people's level of faith and belief are different. They vary. And that we can't interrogate that. Let's wait and see.
Okay.
But the key thing about, you said, Jane said what?
You copied the idea of the women's fund.
I honestly speaking, I am one politician that doesn't like to delve in trivialities. So the country's problems are the same. You know that. The country's challenges are the same. So you should surely expect to see similarities in solution propositions. That is not in doubt. I mean, people need to go to school. One says, I'll pay 38 cedis for them to have progressive education. Another one says, I'll give it to them for free. The idea is similar, but they are being done differently. Women need to be supported, because majority of our SMEs are owned by women. So that's a challenge that we need to fix. Are you aware that 90% of companies in Ghana are SMEs? Are you also aware that 80% of employed in Ghana are SMEs? They work for SMEs. So really, we need to tailor-made something for our women. And so if Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, if the NDC says they will set up a bank, and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says, I'll set up a fund, they are not the same. They are 2 different things.
Why
to run a fund, hold on. To run a fund and to run a bank are 2 different things.
Right.
Accessibility of funding from a fund and accessibility of funding from a bank are not the same.
Okay.
What it means is that the real interrogation is the solution. Which one is viable?
Okay.
Which one is accessible?
Okay.
Which one is feasible? Which one is convenient? But how do you tell me that Women Traders Empowerment Fund, that's the name of
So
what?
Did you copy it or not?
How? Copy what? Did you copy the challenge? Did we copy the challenge?
Okay, so then you can set up the fund,
Yes.
or you intend to set up. Why not set it up now?
You keep saying, well, why didn't Nana Jane say it when she was in government? She was a minister. Why didn't she set up the
She
bank
was
then?
the vice president.
Why didn't the vice president set it then? By what is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia? Is he president?
He's not. But
Why
he
are
has
they
said-
setting up a bank now?
Hold on, Dennis. He has said that he has been the most hardworking vice president ever. He has undertaken
He's
policies.
He's flattered.
He has
He's
undertaken policies.
He's flattered.
So if this is a proposal that he has,
Dr. Bawumia
he could have
is-
gone to his
he's
boss
honored.
Nichols
He's honored.
to make this proposal and have it done, implemented now.
He's
Don't you
honored
agree?
and he's flattered that you agree that he's been the most hardworking one.
I'm saying, I'm quoting what you said.
But great. So
that-
he's honored. But he's done a lot. He couldn't have done all within 4 years. The same way the president, former President Mahama, is promising us a women bank Why? The women didn't have challenge 8 years ago when he was president. Why didn't he set it up then? So that's why I keep saying that please stop asking that question. Everybody should stop it. If you're going to ask that question, then please direct the same question to the former president. Otherwise, you are being unfair. How do you hold a vice president accountable to something and let a president go scot-free? You are asking the vice president why he's not setting up a women traders empowerment fund. A solution he's found to fix a challenge next year. And then you are asking me, you are telling me that I am copying a president who now wants to set up a women's bank. And you are not asking that president why he didn't set up a women's bank during his tenure. Come on. Your 10-year-old nephew will be worried about you. And what's why? Because really,
I didn't say that you're
I'm not referring to you. The you is not you. It's to those who are asking that. Sewa, the fact of the matter is that you cannot hold a vice president's neck and let go a president's neck.
But Dr. Bawumia is in power now. Your party is in power now.
Okay, great.
Right?
Perfect. Thank you.
These are the reasons why. These are the reasons why John Mahama was kicked out of government. Great. And Dr. Bawumia and Nana Addo is in power now.
Awesome.
For which reason Dr. Bawumia is seeking that we elect him as president next year. And this same man has told us that under his boss's watch, he's been able to implement a plethora of things for which he wants us to applaud him for and give him the mandate for. So he can still go to his boss and make these proposals to him.
So you know why I love you? I love you because you bring the conversation into proper context. Now think about this. The man who is asking us to vote for him from the NDC side and is telling us, I will do this, I will do that, I will do this, I will do that. That man was president.
But he didn't make those promises
Hold on, he did.
Then he never promised to set up a women's bank.
But he promised a solution for the women.
But he didn't promise to set up a bank.
But we don't believe that you need a bank to fix the women. That's why we are not proposing a bank.
No problem. You say that accessibility to a fund is easier.
Don't let the love go away.
Is that not what you're saying?
Don't let the love go away.
It won't go away.
So let me answer you. Okay. Let me answer you. I am telling you that, you see, you are asking the vice president of something specific. Why don't you do it whilst you are in government? I am saying that it is not everything that when you are in government in 4 years or 8 years that is ripe for you to do. The enabling environment, the foundations, the fundamentals do not always support the things immediately. Otherwise, government would end and everybody would be fine. Every time as you fix one problem, another one comes up. Why? Have you forgotten our intervention when it comes to women through the Ghana Enterprise Agency? Millions of cedis that was spent on hundreds of thousands of women and their trade in this country. So we've tried it. We've at least showed working. We've shown that we can do something for women when it comes to that space. Then you ask the vice president, who is not president, that why don't you do it? Now go to your boss and go and tell him to do it. Then I ask you, why are you doing this? Why are you not asking the man that has been president before that, why do you want us to vote for you? The things you are telling us, why didn't you do it when you were president? Do you know what are the things that has been missing in all of these elections campaign? Nobody has asked the former president to tell us what he did when he became president so that we can measure him on his performance. The man is hiding in the shades. In fact, when he met and I'm not saying this to flatter you, when he met the media people, I see your question to be just one of the 5 questions that I found to be very, very crucial and important. The rest were just patronizing the man. The man has been president before, Sewa. The danger we are putting the future of our children in is that we are trying to risk putting this country in the hands of a man that all of us are aware is incompetent. And that when he became president, there are several things that he failed to do. That is the danger. And you know why? We are putting our children's life in danger because they were not there. So the 18-year-old that is in the University of Ghana level 100 now and level 200 wasn't there when former President Mahama was president. He never heard the president say that he's a dead goat and that he's seen so much strike and that strikes don't do anything to him. He never heard the former president say that he would not restore nurses and teacher training college allowances and that if they will vote against him, they should vote against him. Today, the former president goes to a nursing training college campus and tells them that he is going to let the allowances remain. And so nobody is playing back what the man did when he was president to the people. Nobody is asking the man why you didn't do these things when you were president. Nobody is asking the man that this is our challenge. One of our challenges is for us to lower cost of living. What is your solution? When the man says it, ask him, what did you do when you were president? Okay. Because it is what you did that will tell us whether we can trust you or not. Otherwise, like they say in Twi, kasa yemframa, everybody can speak words into the air. But we need to really test the credibility of the person. Why are you guys not asking him that? Why have we allowed President Mahama to run away from putting his scorecard on the table?
Oh, well, speaking of that, the former president held a press conference. In fact, he met the press and were able to ask him questions. Of
when
which
the
you saw that
questions,
I did.
everybody, do you know the number of people who are disappointed? Do you know the number of people?
He has put himself up also.
Do you know the number of people?
Why is the vice president also running away from questions?
The vice
from journalists.
Yesterday, the vice president was in Oda. After his engagement with the youth of Oda, do you know what he did? He lined up a microphone. And the young people who understand the issues better than the journalists, because they don't feel all the issues of everybody. Because you don't feel the issues of a carpenter better than the carpenter. You don't feel the challenges of a caterer better than the caterer. They lined up and asked him questions. He subjected himself to the people. At the right time, he's going to engage the media on the issues. Why?
When?
Now we've launched our manifesto. I can tell you that in the next few days, now the manifesto is ready. The manifesto is done. When you are coming to ask him a question, you can premise your question on specific things.
So the vice president
one of the reasons why
he's not running away from the media.
Why are we not dealing with the media every day? One of the reasons why a lot of the questions you asked the former president were speculative was because it wasn't really founded on anything.
Okay.
There was nothing to be interrogated. But today, when you are going to engage the vice president, you are going to engage him on specific issues, Sewa. And I think that, please, if anything at all, when you have an opportunity, let the former president show you his scorecard, what he did when he was president. You know what the strategy is?
But it's there for all to see.
No, it's not there for all. You know why? Because your 18-year-old niece or sister wasn't there. She was 10 years old. So it's not there for her. She didn't see it. She doesn't know. She only knows the 20% that this government hasn't been able to do. She doesn't know
we don't have
the 80% that the former president couldn't do. It is your responsibility to bring that to light.
No problem.
Be fair to the conversation. Not just you. When I say you, I'm not saying you.
No problem. We have just a few minutes to go. And I have two questions. Let's add 30 minutes. Unfortunately, I don't have that. But you know what? I'll bring Dennis back next week. And when I'll speak with my producer, so we bring we bring him back next week. But Dennis, there are two more areas that I want us to touch before we go. Why an SME bank? And I ask you this because there's NEIP. Recently, the Ministry of Finance launched a SMEs program. We have Maslock. So why an SME bank?
I think it's become very important because clearly, like I told you earlier on, 90% of businesses in Ghana are SMEs. 90%. It means that our financial institutions really, if we really have to find solutions to capital support, it should be towards the SMEs.
Okay.
Until we succeed at that, we still have difficulties. So an SME bank to simply focus, give it a special focus on the SMEs we have across the country.
So you collapse these banks, some of whom were supporting SMEs, only to come and start another bank for SMEs.
So Sewa, you see, I told you I love you for several reasons. Don't do that. This government has not collapsed a single bank. Not even one bank has been collapsed by the MPP government. UT Bank wasn't collapsed. It was merged with GCB Bank. Okay. You have done business administration. Is Measure collapsed? Capital Bank wasn't collapsed. It was merged by GCB. Is Measure collapsed? Tell me one depositor who was saving with UT Bank or Capital Bank that didn't get access to his banking services from GCB. The only thing that happened to the UT Bank at Airport Square was that the signage was changed from UT Bank to GCB Bank. How is this collapse? Why have we consistently put out this misinformation?
GN Bank, for instance.
GN Bank is the only bank in this country.
And it was helping SMEs.
Hold on. Don't change the conversation.
I am not.
No, wait. So let me make the point. All the other banks were consolidated into CBG.
Right.
So they were not collapsed. Their depositors, their customers, they all go to CBG. So those banks were not collapsed. A lot of the employees who were not being paid for months under these banks are still working at GCB Bank, at CBG Bank, and all of that. 4 million depositors were saved through this banking sector cleanup. Never call it collapse. It is false. So what? You know it better.
So
don't follow the conversation.
What did you do
now,
to
JN
GN
Bank, this is what is happening. When all these other banks were being resolved and being realigned, GN Bank challenged governments and Bank of Ghana's intervention on that and went to court. What it meant was that GN Bank's resolution did not complete. It didn't complete. And that is why GM Bank is hanging as it is. So if the GM Bank depositors have anybody to blame, they should blame the owner. That one, You were not able to pay depositors' funds when they come to withdraw money. 2, you were not able to pay your workers. 3, your bank had collapsed. We are not the ones saying it. A 2015-2016 report by John Mahama, His Excellency, and his government and Bank of Ghana listed the banks that were collapsing, for which reason their government gave these banks several taxpayers' money to resuscitate them. Several taxpayers' money to resuscitate them, and which they failed. So let me give you a quick example, so then I'll wrap up. Capital Bank was given over 600 million cedis to recapitalize. That was money from the taxpayer for free. The owners of Capital Bank took this money to go and do galamsey in Zimbabwe, open pure water businesses. They took the money to buy big cars. They were given another one. They squandered it. In fact, they used one of the monies that government gave to them to go and set up another bank. The collapsing bank, which government gave you and I our money to, use the money that was given to them to save their bank to go and set up another bank. Now, MPP government comes to place and they say that, well, government has already given you several interventions, which you squandered. So we don't think you have the capacity to manage your bank. So the only thing the MPP government did was to change the management of these banks. The management of these banks. And ever since UT Bank and Capital Bank, management was changed and merged with GCB Bank management. Sawa, have you ever heard any customer of Capital Bank or UT Bank complain that they were going to withdraw their money and they told them they don't have money? Come on, let's educate our people properly. No bank was collapsed under this regime. All right.
Finally, before we go, I'm sure that you've heard your youth organizers say that they will not sacrifice this election on the altar of peace. What exactly does that mean?
If you bring violence to take away the will of the people, we as a political party has a responsibility to protect the will of the people. So, Sewa, you go into an election and the opponent loses the election. And then the opponent says that I'm going to burn hotels because I've lost the elections. And then you are saying that as a government and as a party, we should simply say, oh, because of peace, even though you are being violent, we should let it go. No. The will of the people will be protected. That is why the MPP never, in fact, there's no record of the MPP being violent in any elections. But there are several records of the NDC being violent in several elections. All we are saying is that let's go to the polls, 1 ballot, 1 vote. Let's count the will of the people. If you win, you take the win. If we win, don't bring violence. If you bring violence, we will quell the violence and make sure that the will of the people stays. That's what it means.
What do you mean by you quell the violence?
Why? There are institutions that are responsible for quelling violence. I don't know institutions that are responsible for quelling violence. So we'll quell the violence, we'll contain you, and make sure that we... In the same way, if the MPP also brings violence, there are institutions that will contain the violence. We think that we have one country, a country's democracy that must be protected. We don't have to bend this country for an election, but we still don't have to subvert the will of the people. And so once we do all of these things, let's continuously ensure that we preach peace. But if you have an opposition party that is beating war drums, we are not going to sign a peace pact. We are not going to allow, we are going to burn hotels. We are going to do this. Those are very irresponsible comments, extremely irresponsible comments. I'm a young guy, I love Ghana. I don't want to leave Ghana. I have children who are still growing to be part of this society. I don't want Ghana to burn. I have been to Liberia before. The first time I stepped foot at Liberia, I nearly went back into the plane. And I don't think that we should allow anybody, not a single person, to say anything that re-emphasizes or energizes violence in this country and in this election. Go to the polls, vote, go home, wait for the counting. Whoever Electoral Commission declares a winner, let's all support the person and let's run the country as we've always done.
Thank you very much. Dennis Miracles Aboagye is Director of Communications for the 2024 NPP campaign, and I know that we didn't have enough time. I'll speak to my producer. We'll try and bring Dennis back. Dennis, promise to come back next week.
Oh, I'll come. I mean, this from now to December, every day I can come.
Okay.
Do you want me to come every day?
Thank you very much for coming on the show, and thank you for watching.
For RAZ MEDIA GH. I'm saying the Jumadie no aba na here in a sense say a video where I be boy and I say you're making sure say if you are an MPP supporter you don't have to I mean think say what buying a baby what buying a year juma pa here juma number me propaganda and a month for say to say you be say you fan say MPP amanyokuru na so no emma soda Yati Zembebre Yemia Miracles Aboagye actually and said MPP4 you will numa ebohun Europa. Yeah. me fa kwanya we so na ma chia me nua ba me na me sister sweet voice ma ko pe Miss B chiao ye pa edawase any o kindness yeah Abdul Munuf won so me chiao edawase pa Theodon won so me chiao edawase sa so na Gilbert won so me chiao edawase abusha ha RAZ Media GH enche bia RAZ Media me ankasa me ba life ene de yankopon abomodren ama ye wo pre entino Remember life na yede ensempa abramo face to face interaction ye kasa wi a oso tu frɛ e de wadwen kyerɛ ebraye Miss B yeah I'm here been a long time very very long time yeah but I think say today in 20 minutes time I'm coming live yes okay. In 20 minutes time I'm coming live yes so yeah it will be very amazing and I am saying my voice let them come up I say microphone way come up yes into my voice no ekoye pa ebeda mu nyina ase ebesa yeshia Miss B one love Miss B take care and we shall meet soon live on RAZ Media. Like the video, share, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And I was say, Sewaya Super, Nawati, and Sempa, a free MPP.